What do you do when life throws you some curveballs? Let's talk about it. Before we dive into the specific tips that's really going to help you out, I want you to understand that when life throws you curveballs, you need to have a different perspective shift. You need to have a different mindset when it comes to adversity. Without taking too much time at all, let me give you a few analogies that can really help you out when it comes to life throwing you curveballs and how it can actually be a blessing in disguise. Let's just say that I have a bow and arrow and I pull it back just a little bit and launch it forward. Well, the reality is that arrow, it's not going to actually go that far. It's never going to hit that target. But what happens when I have that bow and arrow and I pull it all the way back? It's going to catapult. It's going to go 10 times farther than if there was just a little bit of a pull on it. That pull, that's called stress, right? There's a lot of tension that's on that bow right there. And that's what's going to make the arrow take off forward in life. So sometimes you need that stress. Sometimes you need that adversity because that's really what's going to pull you backwards, almost like a minor setback for a greater comeback that's going to launch you 10 times forward towards your goals. The quote out there that I really love, and it says, "The harder the climb, the better the view." And if you think about it, if let's just say that you're climbing a mountain and you stop halfway because there's an edge, there's a little bit of a peak, you might still see a bunch of trees. You're not going to see the over the ridge, anything like that. But what happens when you continue to climb up that mountain? Obviously, it's harder, but you get to enjoy that bigger, grand view at the very top. And obviously, one of my favorite quotes, "Pressure builds diamonds." Now, regardless if you have kids or not, I'm sure you obviously know what happens when you have a bouncy ball, right? Like if you just drop it down on the ground lightly, you don't have any force to it, it's only going to go up a little bit. But the harder you throw it down on the ground, the higher it's going to bounce right back up. And obviously, since I'm a health and fitness coach, let's talk about developing muscle. If you're going to the gym and if you're using the same weights over and over again, the same reps, the same sets, you're eventually going to hit a stall. You're eventually going to hit a plateau. That's why you need to be focusing on progressive overload, where you're lifting heavier or you're doing more volume, doing more drop sets, supersets, right? All these different, features when it comes to taxing the muscle more and more and more, because you want it to break it down. That's what's going to happen when you're lifting heavier. That's what's going to happen when you're developing that muscle inside the gym. You're purposely trying to break it down. And obviously, through proper nutrition, proper recovery, that's where it's going to get bigger and stronger. But it's only going to get bigger and stronger if we're ready and willing to push ourselves outside of our comfort zone and lift up those heavier weights. The moral of the story is this. Sometimes when you're in a dark place in life, you may think that you're being buried, but you're actually being planted. As long as you continue to water that seed, you have the right mindset, you don't quit, you don't give up, you don't throw in the towel, you eventually will blossom. You eventually will grow. You will one day look back and say, man, I'm really glad that I went through all that trial, all that adversity, all those hardships, because it made me better in the end. Anytime you're progressing in life, you're going to be faced with adversity. You're going to be faced with storms. Whether that's stress at work, stress at home, financial issues, injuries, sicknesses, worry, doubt, fear, anxiety, it doesn't matter. There's going to be something that's thrown your way unexpectedly. Curveballs. Having the right mindset and perspective shift is the number one thing that you need when life is throwing you these challenges. You need to take them for what they are. It's a blessing in disguise, whether you think that way or not. And this is why I'm a big fan of affirmations. A simple one that you could say is, hey, everything is always working out in my favor. Everything is always working out in my favor. Everything is always working out in my favor. And you might be watching this right now, and let's say, you're dealing with some financial issues. You're dealing with a heartbreak. You're dealing with, let's say, an injury. And you might be thinking like, Joe, it's so easy for you to say that, right? You don't know what I'm going through, but hear me out. Who's to say that like that trial, that adversity, that curveball that's being thrown your way, it's actually helping you in the end of the day. It's actually preparing you for something greater, or it's preventing you from something that actually might hurt you even more. Let's just say that you're watching this video right now and you're going through a hard breakup. You might be thinking that it's the end of the world. You're very upset. You're maybe even depressed about it. And hear me out. I've been there plenty of times, so I know exactly what it is that you're feeling. I wear my heart on my sleeve, plain and simple. I'm a very emotional guy. And back in the day, I had my heart broken so many times. And during the midst of that hard breakup, right, the midst of the storm, it felt like my world was collapsing on me. But it ended up being a blessing in disguise. God was preparing me to just say, hey, man, like, those aren't the right girls for you. Fast forward through life, hey, now I'm married, right, to the perfect girl for me. We have an amazing family. So looking back at it, I can truly say, like, thank God so much. Like, those relationships did not work out. But in the middle of those breakups, I understand. It's hard. This is where you need to be optimistic. This is where you need to have faith that in the end, it's all going to work out in your favor. It's all going to work out at the end of the day. You don't know if the right person for you is right after this heartbreak that you're going through right now. Let's just say that you're watching this video right now and you're dealing with an injury. Let's say it's something minor like in your shoulder, right? But you can't really do any pressing or anything like that. And you're taking some time away from the gym, maybe a week or two. Now, you may be upset because you're thinking to yourself, like, you're going to ruin all your results. You're going to sabotage your gains. Taking that time away from the gym is going to throw you off the course of your routine. But who's to say that, taking that time away from the gym, it's actually a blessing in disguise. So let's just say that you were never dealing with that shoulder injury and you happen to go to the gym, and let's just say like you were deadlifting and your ego got the best of you and it was way too much weight on the bar and you throw out your back. And next thing you know, it's like, hey, you need back surgery because you hurt it really, really bad. If we had to take the bigger picture of all of that, it's like, man, I would much rather deal with a minor shoulder injury, taking some time away from the gym, letting my body heal itself, maybe working on nutrition, maybe working on the mindset, despite that injury, despite taking that time off in the gym. I would much rather focus on that and have that rather than hurting my back in the gym and potentially getting, surgery because of it. Once again, you don't know if something is actually a blessing in disguise. Who knows? Let's just say that you're driving to the bank because you need to get some money out, and somebody happens to rear end you because they weren't paying attention. Maybe they're just texting on their phone, and you're like, oh man, now I got pay for this and deal with this, and I really needed to make it to the bank, and it's taken all this time now, waiting for the cops to come and dealing with this little fender bender. But once again, like, who's to say that, like, on that route to, going to the bank, who's to say somebody didn't run a red light and completely smash your car and total it, right? Or potentially really injure you. Or let's just say you're going to the bank and who knows, right? Maybe some robbers pull up, right, with some guns and rob the bank. And it's just like, once again, right? We think that these minor difficulties and these storms and these curveballs that we're dealing with, it's the end of the world. We need to have a different perspective shift. And this is where mentally, right, we need to affirm to ourselves everything is working out in our favor. If you really start affirming that, you're not only going to have more peace, but also way more confidence. And this is what's going to help you out the right mindset, mainly having this winner's mentality that, hey, it's all going to work out in the end. I'm still winning regardless. It's all meant to be. It's all part of the bigger picture here, right? Let me actually read to you a short little verse coming from James in the Bible. James chapter 1, verse 2. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Number one key for you is to have the right mindset, to have a different perspective. When life is throwing you curveballs, when life is throwing you tests, it's actually in preparation, or it could be a blessing in disguise. It's either preparing you to make you mentally, emotionally, spiritually, or physically stronger, or it's a blessing in disguise because it's preventing you from something way worse from happening. The next time you're dealing with any kind of adversity or unexpected curveballs, and the reality is they're always going to be unexpected. Nobody plans to say, tomorrow at the gym, I'm going to injure my elbow. No, they're always going to be unexpected, right? My recommendation for you is take a step back and look at the bigger picture. Now, it's okay to be upset in the moment. It's okay to be, emotionally frustrated. Totally normal, right? But don't let that eat you away. Take a step back, take a look at the bigger picture. It might actually be a blessing in disguise. Who knows? Maybe it's something where you need to focus on more prayer time or focus on strengthening your faith. That always helps me out as well. Maybe it's also an opportunity where you can devote to maybe becoming stronger in other areas of your life. You just never know. 3 quick tips that can really help you out. That way you're not letting your emotions eat you up. The first one is take a look at the bigger picture in terms of what do you have going on for your life right now. Maybe you injured yourself. Maybe you're dealing with some stress at work. Maybe you're dealing with some financial stress or, some issues at home, with your spouse. But what do you have going on for you right now? Maybe it's your health. Maybe it's, hey, you live in a great community. Maybe you have a house. Maybe you have, clothes in your dresser drawer and in your closet. Maybe there's food in the fridge. You have, clean water. You have toothbrush, toilet paper. There's so many things in your life probably that, hey, you can take a mental note or even write it down to say, hey, I'm really grateful that I have this going on for me right now in my life. Second, and this is what I said earlier, is start affirming to yourself that everything is always working out in your favor. I'm a huge fan of affirmations. It even says in Proverbs 18:21 in the Bible, death and life are found in the power of the tongue. Your thoughts, man, I tell you what, they can either make you or they can break you. Henry Ford even said it best. Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. So start affirming to yourself that everything is always working out in your favor. And the third and final tip is self-reflection. It's a simple exercise. At the end of the day, you can either write this down or you can just mentally take note. What are the things that you're doing right? A lot of us, we take a look at I wish I had this, and I wish I weren't going through this right now. I wish I had a better job. I wish I wasn't dealing with this injury. But it's we constantly look at the negatives. What if instead, before we go to sleep, we always see the positives? How different do you think our lives would be? And the positives can be very small even, right? Collecting some wins. Hey, I did the dishes today. I took out the trash. I showed up for work today. I hit my protein goal. I got some steps in. I spent quality time, with my family. Collecting these wins is really going to help you out mentally with one, being more positive, two, having way more confidence, and three, developing what I like to say, the winner's mindset. Lastly, I want to leave you with this, and this is by far one of my favorite quotes. It's from Steve Jobs. He said, "You cannot connect the dots looking forward in life, but you can always connect the dots looking backwards in life." So remember, the next time you're dealing with any kind of storms, adversity, curveballs, it might be a blessing in disguise. One day, fast forward in the future, you might look back and be very grateful that you had to go through those hardships and that adversity. Really hope that you enjoyed today's video. If you did, definitely give it a thumbs up, and also leave a comment down below letting me know your biggest takeaway. If you have not yet already subscribed to my YouTube channel, I would greatly appreciate that. As always, guys, this has been Coach Joe with Heartletics.com, and I'll talk to you in the next episode. Peace out, Girl Scouts.